Good morning. Welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I am Razzle11. You can find me on Twitter at Razzle11Grinds. Gonna take a look at some pitching for today, Monday the 5th of June. We have a 7-game main slate on both sites, I believe. Finally, including the 5:40 Central Time games, which they tend to enjoy leaving off for no reason. But let's take a look at the pitching options. At the top, we're going to have somebody who's pretty popular, somebody that I've been fading most of the season. Uh, Aaron Nola has just 11 DK points in 3 out of his last 4, which, obviously is not great for a guy that we're paying 5 figures for. He did have that elite performance against the Cubs, had an elite performance against Houston as well, from a fantasy perspective. But aside from that, he really hasn't been all that great this season. Now it is Detroit. I'm sure he is a massive favorite. I have not looked. I will take a look on my other monitor. Yeah, he's a minus 240 favorite right now, which my guess is the highest on the slate. So he's kind of the somewhat obvious chalk, even though I don't really plan on going super heavy on him as of right now. Obviously, that will change or could change throughout the day as I dig in more and more. Um, but just a reminder, this is kind of like a first look video. That's why I do it right away in the morning, to get us thinking about the options, and to know where we're going to look when we want to dive in to a little bit more of a deeper research, before we finalize our player pools or our builds. So Noah's in play. Not somebody I'm super excited about using, but there really isn't those kind of pitchers on this slate. Uh, I'm never excited about using Blake Snell. Has looked pretty good the last 2, 4 out of the last 5. Um, he's always capable of putting up a dud. Like he did against Boston. Did face the Cubs earlier. Uh, Walks were an issue. Walks are always going to be an issue at this point. We just hope that he is sharp when it comes to the strikeouts and keeping runners off base, from hits wise. So, uh, definitely somebody I'm interested in. He's just so erratic that it makes it really difficult. Minus 179 favorite, which looks like the third highest on the slate. And to see Julio Teheran at 8,700, that is just one extremely shocking situation. Hadn't pitched in the majors since 2021. The Brewers just randomly signed him to a major league contract, and he's come out and he's thrown the ball ridiculously well. Shut down Toronto despite not striking anybody out, which is just crazy. But we've seen Cincinnati score some runs recently. I wouldn't be shocked if this game total moves towards 10. I think it's at 9.5 right now. I can't do it. I'm sure somebody's gonna to sell Tehran as an option today, and maybe that's the case because we don't have a ton of great options. But I think he's gonna give up a few runs today. So I'm not overly excited about playing Tehran, who could go through a game and not strike anybody out. Doesn't really intrigue me. He's been at 83 and 79 pitches, which, like, I get they probably just wanted to go to the bullpen after 6. So, but until they send him above 85, I'm not sure they're planning on lengthening him out. But there are going to be people that will be on him, and I just don't think I can do it, despite how he has thrown. Bryson Garrett, somebody I've been on the last handful of starts. Uh, Pretty strong performances minus his performance at Coors, which still wasn't bad. from a real life standpoint, from a fantasy standpoint, it obviously wasn't the greatest. But uh, I like the matchup against Kansas City. I normally like him on the road, but this ballpark in Miami is generally supposed to be a pitcher's park. So hopefully Bryce Garrett can turn it around a little bit. His last two home starts have been strong. I think he's skewed by this home start against Atlanta where they left him out to dry. I don't remember the last time I've seen a starting pitcher allow 14 hits and 11 runs. I'd have to dig in. I'm sure there's been others over the last few years, but I just off the top of my head I can't think of anybody who were hung out to dry that much. Uh, Solid K numbers overall. Can obviously have a home run issue, but I don't know that we want to worry that much about it against Kansas City. Being left-handed definitely helps against Pasquantino and Prado. Uh, Obviously has to deal with Witt and Perez, but that's fine. Bryce Garrett's probably going to end up one of my higher owned pitchers on this slate. Feels kind of dirty, but I feel like that's been the case with Miami. I've been pretty high on Yuri Perez, Edward Cabrera. I still can't give up on Alcantara, even though he looks absolutely atrocious. But Bryce Garrett definitely at near the top for me. Martin Perez hasn't been sharp the last few. Um, really hasn't been sharp since April. I mean, has strong start against Colorado, okay start against Pittsburgh, but his road starts have not been good around that. He is pitching at home, where he's definitely been better overall. Uh, his K rate's higher. Uh, Walk rate is much lower. Shaving a bunch off the whip. Still allows some hits, but uh, St. Louis, they're such a tough offense to figure out. They should have the guys to put up a ton of runs, but the offense is struggling. They do have guys that can hit left-handed pitching, so that is the worry for me. I think I'm going to have him in my pool, but I'm not planning to go overly heavy unless we see changes to the St. Louis lineup that would push me the other way. JP Sears, I am interested. Hasn't been great on the road, but he hasn't been terrible the last four starts. His K's kind of disappeared the last two against Atlanta and Seattle. Uh, K's were there the previous two against Houston and Texas, so like they're there. I'm not sure. Try to read some things on him, throughout the day just to see if there's a reason his stuff maybe is backed up or a different game plan or what it might be because those last two starts have been solid from a real life perspective. Uh, they just don't have the fantasy point upside to them because there haven't been Ks. Obviously, no wins, but uh, Oakland starting pitching just don't get wins anyways, so uh, can't really expect that to happen. But Sears is certainly intriguing for me. I'm gonna probably have to not play Alek Manoah ever again. I mean, I don't know. Like he's just been atrocious. I I really have no explanation for what he's doing or what's wrong or anything. But Toronto needs to have him figure it out. I like Belak. I don't like him in the spot. Definitely has showcased some upside, but we just saw Tehran not strike anybody out from Toronto. Belak is better than Tehran is at this point, but no reason to pick on Toronto in Toronto unless it's some dominant pitcher, and Belak is definitely not that. Uh, Wainwright not going to make my pool. Uh, Previous years, I really liked using him at home only, anyways. So going into Texas against Texas, the offense scoring the most runs per game. No, thank you. Oviedo against Oakland should be popular as the SP2 on this DK slate. Walks are an issue, which I feel like we say that about a lot of guys these days. But one run allowed in three of his last four starts. Always nice to see. Uh, Home road numbers are pretty similar. Uh, he walks far less guys at home, which is obviously an important thing for us. Just gets the great matchup against Oakland. I am going to have to eat the chalk. I curious to see what our ownership projections end up being. Uh, Kind of give you a clue into how I build my MME pool. The pitchers that make my pool, I end up overweight on every single one of them based on our ownership projections. So, uh, you know, when we get massive chalk like I think we could on this slate, it makes it a lot tougher. Uh, I pretty much never try to match the field on any pitcher. Hitters, it'll happen just because, I'm not hand building 300 lineups. Um, I'm putting in my settings, my stacks, and let it go. But pitching, I like to narrow it down, get the guys I'm playing, and then make sure I go overweight on all of those guys. Myers is a very interesting option. Has come on in the long relief role. The last two appearances has gone for over 20 DK points as a long reliever. Uh, really impressive. Gets a pretty weak Miami offense. I am very intrigued. I hate, relying on long relievers. But the nice thing is if Kansas City can pick up a run, in the first or top of the second, Myers then just walks right into a chance to pick up the win pretty quickly. So, uh, there is a bonus there. But I do like both sides in pitching in this matchup. Uh, Carlos Hernandez opening, not never gonna be an option for me unless the opener is min priced and we have a super weak slate. But um, Kyle Hendricks, I mean, I did use him against the Mets in his return. He don't know why I did, but I did. Um, Definitely had no interest in him against Tampa Bay. Don't think I'm gonna have interest in him against San Diego, even though the Padres' offense has been much weaker than we anticipated. I just don't really think he has a ton of upside overall. So I'm not all that interested. Some of it probably can come from the fact that we have Andrew Abbott making his debut. Um, and it's a lefty taking on Milwaukee. Uh, a combination that I find impossible for me to ignore. Um, he's one of the Reds' top prospects overall, so that is key. Uh, Minor league numbers have been extremely strong. We always worry about pitching in this ballpark because it's so small, but it's really tough to ignore a top pitching prospect at min price when he's a lefty taking on the Brewers. And I pointed out in my notes all the time of how weak the Brewers lineup has become against left-handed pitching. So despite the stronger team total in this game, I will be on Abbott. I actually think he's going to be somewhat popular. So uh, there we have it. There's a first look here at the pitching options. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get alerted every time we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, I will put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's RAZ, for 10% off. And as always, best of luck, everybody.